Now in our quality of life section, a follow-up to an ongoing LPB investigation into oil field waste. In Lafourche Parish, sludge pits of oil field byproducts have nearby residents complaining. And environmentalists say that the way Louisiana polices oil field sludge under our Rule 29B is some of the weakest policing in the country. Last month, the people of Grand Bois, where a large waste pit is located, had their day in court. They sued the waste pit owner and Exxon, asking for $80 million for widespread health complaints. Diana Baker has the verdict.
They stayed a couple hours to settle, and what they did, they came into this driveway, and they backed up their trucks to cell 11 here, and they undid the back latches on the trucks and just dumped the sludge out, and they ran to the front of their trucks. And they were in the moon suits and everything else.
Rusty was, what, 5, 6 at the time. He started grabbing his face. I mean, that's how volatile it was. And Mama said by the time she got to the house, she was in the middle of the yard. She went directly in the bathroom, began throwing up. She said it was that bad.
It's a legal loophole, but this waste is hazardous. But yet they have the right to call it non-hazardous. I don't care what you call it, but don't let people be exposed to it. Your state agencies are letting people be exposed to this waste and, you know, just calling it non-hazardous. That is wrong of your state agency. That is wrong.
Over the last year, accusations and controversy have swirled around this tiny community in South Louisiana known as Grand Bois. In 1984, the state of Louisiana provided a permit for a corporation to dispose of oil field waste next to their community. Now, this once obscure township that enjoyed a quiet life has been thrust into the limelight by residents' allegations of toxic exposure, corporate conspiracy, and cover-ups by state agencies.
I want to get to the bottom of it. If there's something bad going on, I want to know what it is. I want it to stop. And if it can't be stopped immediately, then we want to shut the facility down.
Last month, the residents of Grand Bois took their complaints to court. The first of a series of trials for 10 of the 300 plaintiffs ended with mixed results. The defendants were Exxon Corporation and Campbell Wells, the owner of the oil field waste facility. After damaging testimony, Campbell Wells quickly negotiated a settlement with the residents. The terms of the deal are sealed, but involve both compensation to the plaintiffs as well as minor changes in the buffer zone between the open waste pits and the residents. This left Exxon alone to defend itself against claims of toxic exposure to the residents. Many onlookers watched in disbelief as the industrial giant with deep pockets refused to settle the case. Plaintiffs' attorneys had asked the jury for over $80 million in punitive damages.
In this trial, I'm happy with the way our attorneys handled our case. You know, the jury's seen it in a different light, but as far as us beating Campbell Wells and Exxon, we did. Just when the jury went to deliberate, I don't know what happened.
Within days, the trial was over. After just 8 hours of deliberation, the Thibodeau jury returned a resounding no to almost all of the allegations against Exxon. 3 of the 10 residents were awarded a total of only $130,000. 7 of the Grand Bois plaintiffs got nothing. But most telling of all, the jury didn't order Exxon to pay a penny in punitive damages.
I honestly don't believe that the jury understood exactly what that meant. Is that these people had to be punished for what they've done. I mean, even though it was legal, I mean, Exxon knew.
How can they punish somebody when they did what was legal? That's the whole key.
Yeah, but I mean, legal or not legal, common sense could tell you that if this stuff had benzene at this level and hydrogen sulfide was suspected.
Yeah, but you were in a court of law.
Yes.
Dr. Mike Robichaud serves the people of Grand Bois as a physician and state senator.
Every time they addressed an issue that was a legal issue that they had to decide on, the first thing they had to ask themselves, was it illegal? And the answer to that was constantly, no, it wasn't illegal. They didn't do anything that was against the law, because they wrote the law.
The surprise verdict left plaintiffs' attorneys wondering whether they should continue to try the remaining cases for the other 290 Grand Bois residents. Whether the trials continue in Thibodaux state courts or not, the Grand Bois controversy has already caused changes in the way Louisiana state agencies monitor so-called non-hazardous oil field waste.
Yeah. The whole subject of Grand Bois has, in my opinion, been one that the more I learned about it, the more concerned I became about it. I'm concerned for a number of reasons. Number one, that it's been around for quite a while. It has a life of its own, and nobody seemed to have any answers.
In the face of industry concerns, Governor Foster issued an emergency ruling last spring and called in help from state and federal agencies.
And on May the 1st of this year, some emergency rules were established. Now, understand that for an emergency rule to be invoked, the public or the environment has to be in imminent peril. So it has to be a true emergency, and there has to be a situation involved in which someone's life or the environmental situation is such that it's critical.
The state agency that regulates the oil and gas industry is the Department of Natural Resources. With the 29B emergency ruling, the DNR was charged with monitoring the samples of all oil field waste coming to Louisiana. Jack Caldwell is secretary for the Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah, we're cutting new ground, no question about that. No one has ever done the study that we're doing on the scope that we're doing it on and the processes that we're examining.
The sampling program is the first of its kind in America and requires the analysis of the waste both at its point of origin as well as at its arrival at the waste treatment facilities. The raw sampling data is sent to the Department of Natural Resources and published on the internet. The test results are then analyzed by LSU scientists. Dr. James Wharton heads up the team that will make recommendations to the state on how oil field waste should be handled in the future.
There have been studies of oil field waste in the past, from the late 1980s on to the present. And so far we're getting similar results to what's been found in the past. We are looking at a number of different waste streams, and we're finding that the metals don't seem to be a major problem. And on the other hand, the volatile organic compounds can be a problem in some of the waste streams.
One thing I want to commend the state for doing, Secretary Caldwell for doing, they put all this stuff on the internet, and it's in a database, and I've been able to access the database.
Dr. Mike Robichaux has been doing his own number crunching and has published a series of reports he'll present to the Oilfield Waste Advisory Committee.
And the report called for, well, the report explained that out of 600-something specimens, it showed fairly conclusively, the data did, that we had the associated waste stream, which is a small volume, limited volume waste stream, had some very toxic characteristics to it. And in analyzing this data, most of the problems was in the area of benzene. And benzene's a known carcinogen, and it's a highly toxic material. We have one specimen that had 15,000 milligrams per liter of benzene in it, okay? The highest allowed by the EPA in any other industrial setting except the oil and gas industry is 0.5 milligrams, which means it is 30,000 times more concentrated than benzene would be allowed in an industry. That means that those workers handling that benzene right now are not told anything about it. They do not know that it's hazardous. They do not have to take any special precautions or anything. I mean, it's ludicrous. Now, I think the state has this information right now. It is imperative. It is critical. It is absolutely, positively important that we inform, if not the companies, because the companies know this already, that these people, the workers, are working around this material and make some appropriate adjustments to avoiding exposure.
For now, the recent court case between the residents of Grand Bois and Exxon seems to have shown that until the laws are changed, those who live near waste sites or work in the oil fields have no protection or recourse.
If they become ill because of it, it is not against the law. If they can have something 30,000 times as toxic and not be required to let the worker, your husband, my wife, my sons, whatever else who are working with this material, know about it. And if they get sick, there's nothing we can do about it because it's not against the law. We learned that from Grand Bois.